You're listening to the Raw Honeys podcast, the place to be real, be love, and be friend. Join Chelsea Fine, Heather Hildenbrand, and me, Amanda Axel. We're real friends who aren't afraid to talk about the raw truth of real life. If you're looking for a group of girlfriends who will support and encourage you when the going gets tough, this is the place to be. Pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, and enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to the Raw Honeys podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Heather Hildenbrand, and I'm here with Chelsea Fine and Stacey Marie Brown. We have a guest author host today, one of our author buds, and I'm so excited to have her, and we're going to be chatting about travel, which is a common passion the three of us have. We all love to travel. And so we were just sort of chit-chatting about it the other day and got onto a long rant about how awesome it is and all the things we think about it, especially traveling as women and sometimes traveling as women alone. And we just thought it would be a really perfect topic for our honeys who have adventures, but also the honeys that need more adventures in their lives. So we're going to talk to you about all that today, about our favorite things about it and our favorite places to go and some tips and just why we think it's so important to get out and have adventures. So really quick, I know you know Chelsea and I by now, but I just want to tell you a little bit about Stacey. She's amazing. She is a writer of hot fictional bad boys and sarcastic heroines who kick butt. She also enjoys books, travel, TV shows, hiking, writing, design, and archery. Stacey swears she's part gypsy, being lucky enough to live and travel all over the world. And you can learn more about her at her website, which is staceymariebrown.com. Sign up for her newsletter and or, most importantly, check out her books because they're amazing. And we're going to get into chatting. So really quick, Stacey, maybe you can start off and just tell us, and I know we'll go around and kind of all say our like travel history, but I'm just really, really curious about how you developed a passion for travel. Did you just travel a lot as a kid? Did you always live in the same place and want to get out? Like what happened?
I swear it's something that I might even be born with because I was raised on a farm, born and lived in the same house. But every summer, we weren't wealthy by any means. So the only real vacation my family had was taking camping trips. And it was always we would go Wyoming, it would be caravan with our group of friends and stuff like that. So it was always this adventure that I felt. And I was a Goonies kid. And so I was just always had this sense of being out in the world made me feel alive. It was just I loved that feeling. And so, I got to 18, graduated high school and I knew right away I was going to this junior college, which is incredible. My parents both worked there and I could go on this abroad program. And it happened to be what their biggest one at the time. That season was going drama. And I was, acting at that time. So I was because my brother had done London, done the school abroad program. And I was I'm doing that too. And they're dude, you just graduated high school. Let's wait a semester. Let's get you in school. And I'm no, I'm going now. And all my friends were you're leaving everyone you know. You don't know anybody. And I was yeah, no, I want to go. And I admit, I didn't want any of them to follow. I wanted this. I don't know. I felt maybe trapped. You know how you get in your group friends and you play this role? And
yes.
Not that I loved my friends and stuff like that, but I was ready to be someone more, somebody that
yes.
I could dictate, wasn't somebody that knew me for a long time. I could, dictate this new person. So I went abroad at 18 and oh my God. I felt immediately with London that if we lived past lives, I lived in London before. I just had that immediate connection. And so, of course, the weekends, you took holidays. So I went to Ireland and the Canary Islands and it was only 4 months, but it was immediately I knew from there I was never going to stop. And I haven't. And so my friend Alex and I decided before college, we were going to do another trip together and we went all around England and Ireland and so from there, I've lived abroad, I've worked abroad, I've studied abroad, and I've traveled as many places as I can possibly get to. It's part of my blood. I feel where I'm the happiest, where I'm the most me, the genuine happy me.
Yes. Yes. Same. So I definitely feel like that too, actually. when I'm traveling. And it's partly, I always thought at first that it was just because like I'm on vacation, which means I'm not working. I left all my problems at home. And there is like a little bit of that, I think, when we go on a vacation, quote unquote, because then we can like decompress or whatever, we're off, right?
Yeah.
But I will say for me, it is also more than that. It is this need inside to see. I have a need to see everything that I can
learn, experience,
experience. I want to be like a global citizen, a citizen of the world. For a long time, and I didn't want an address. I wanted to just be that much on the move.
I was the same. Yeah.
And then I realized, where am I going to put my stuff? And then I had it in storage for a while. And then moving sucks, like moving your stuff. Like if I'm ever going to do that again, it'll be later when I can just sell everything I own and actually do that. Because if you're going to not have an address, but still have stuff, that is complicated.
I think there's a timing that when you're really young and when you're older, like, and you're getting to like, your empty nest or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think those are the two times in your life that you're like, I can just go again. Where in the middle, I was traveling so much and I didn't have a home base. And I have to admit, like, I like having that touchstone where I can come back and go, okay, I got my stuff and get my routine and then, plan probably my next trip out,
Yeah. Agreed. Yes. I have learned I value having that home base. Like it's a sense of security or stability that I didn't know I needed. Now I like appreciate it more for sure.
Well, it kind of works like an anchor a little bit, like in our lives, right? And I find for me, and I love to travel, and I do plan to just travel my entire life. And it's great that we have these careers where we really can just travel and work and stuff.
We're very blessed. And I know people listening to this are probably saying, well, lucky you.
Oh, it is though. It's such a blessing and stuff. But I do find that it is easier for me to enjoy and learn and experience in like a really complete, fulfilling way when I know that I have that home base, that anchor. So like, what about like, as far as where you go? Cause Stacey, you go all over the place. And where we go is really interesting because sometimes we choose where we're going to go and other times we kind of let the world choose for us where we're going to go. So I wanted to ask, like, how do you choose where you're going to go next?
I have a lot of upcoming trips, but they're nothing actually I plan. They're all like for signing events or something. And I'll use them as a jumping off point. I don't know. Like I just follow like this gut thing like that. I'm like, we'll go, like, I just came back from Turkey and Romania this last time because I'm getting more and more into like, I've done almost all of UK, Ireland, France, I've done all that Central Europe. And I mean, I love it. And there is not one time I won't go back to it. But I started wanting getting more of like that adventure spirit. Like I've been to Bosnia and these places that people get like, oh, you went there? And I'm like, oh my God, it was probably the best place I've ever been to in my life. And I have a story about Bosnia that like it, I had my mom and I call it my other mom. Like, we have a mother-daughter team that I grew up with Emily since birth, and her mom and my mom have been friends. But that trip, Emily had kids, so she couldn't make it. So I was with my two moms, and we get along. So, we're such a family unit. It's unbelievable. And people are like, you travel with your mom? I'm like, you wouldn't believe it. We just get each other now. But I had the two of them and they were like, everybody was saying like, you guys can't go to Bosnia. 13 years ago, there was a war there, but it was, and I was like, no, we are getting, and it was not an easy trek. It's only buses and it was like, 10 hours. And I was on this back part of it that had the heater on and it was like 100 and something. Like I was like, we're going to do this.
Hardcore.
Yeah, it was, but once we got there and they are like, it was the most beautiful, unbelievably deep and heartbreaking, but the people were gorgeous. I love Bosnia. If I could recommend, there's so many places I recommend, but just those places that, again, going to Romania and things that people don't think about and how lovely and wonderful these places are. So, I don't know. I'll see something maybe on our travel channel that I'm like, ooh, that looked pretty. Like, we went to Greece, the monasteries sit on the rocks and it's very epic. And I saw that and I'm like, I want to get there. I don't care. Like I'm getting there. And we did. And it was still probably one of our favorite places ever. It was just so spiritual and gorgeous and the trek can be hard. Like we had come from Edinburgh all the way and it was like a 14-hour plane, train and automobile ride kind of thing. By the end, me and my friend Emily were singing Grease songs on the train, dancing up and down because we lost our mind. That was our thing when we were 5. We used to put on plays together for our family. So Grease was one of those. So we started singing that. We're like, summer lovin'.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, my mom has that taped, unfortunately.
Well, that's like a different level to car karaoke. That's like next level.
Yeah, because it was an empty train and it was like, 15 hours into our trip and we're like, screw it, whatever. We totally lost our mind. Because there were some scary parts. There was this one part that we had to all get off and we didn't speak, they did not speak any English and we had to, and the lights turned off in the train and everybody just got off and we're like, what's going on? What's going on? And so we had to get off and it was like an hour before they like switched this train and we didn't know if we were on the right track where we were going. So there's a lot of fear, but at the same time, you use that as, well, so what if we end up somewhere else? What, I think people get so scared and so stuck to this, like, oh my God, like, what if we go this way? Well, what if you do?
Right. Exactly. That's the adventure.
Yeah.
But it is your attitude. You do have to have an attitude of like, well, what's the worst that can happen? I might end up, in a different place than I planned, but that's okay. Because there is a type of person or people that would be like, really, that couldn't handle that. So I think it's important to say, like, we all go into a trip with a certain level of flexibility so that we don't lose our minds. Because that is scary, especially with the language barrier. I was going to ask you how, when you go to these places where not only is English not really the first language, but also you're in parts of the country where like nobody around you speaks English at all.
And let me say, nor should they. That's what I get I've seen so many horrible American tourists that are like, why don't they just speak English? Because they're not in America. And the fact is that so many of them know English and that's their trilingual. And I'm like, God, that is amazing. I barely even speak my own damn language. So true. We always make sure that, Emily she has a really good ear. And my mom took Latin. And so like a lot of those languages, sometimes we get to where she's like, okay, they've lost me, the root word, but we will make sure that we know basic phrases, understand things, that we can get through. Because that to me is if anybody came here and like came up and was like screaming in a different language and people would be like, that's so rude. Why don't they know English? Well, it's the same way in the reverse, people, so learn some phrases, understand what, like at least where's the bathroom,
right.
where's the bar? But most we've always found is they will somehow, because I've been in places that we did not, I didn't speak their language. They didn't speak mine, but somehow there's this universal that we could understand each other,
Yeah.
This basic form of, when you really try, we're all human,
Yeah.
Well, body language is the same universally, and intention, especially when you're in person with someone from another culture. So much is conveyed without using words, or can be conveyed without using words. And thank goodness for that. You read that fine line of like trying to fit in, but also trying not to look super nerdy. It's just, there's lots of parts of traveling that are tricky like that, or that you just kind of have to find your own flow in and find where your comfort zone is and stuff. And I know a big one probably, well, for all three of us for sure, is being female and traveling. And I'm sure it is the same for all of us, but like when I'm about to travel somewhere by myself, I have friends and family members who really panic for me because I'm by myself and like, oh, you're a woman. Like, what are you thinking? And I kind of laugh at that. But Stacey, you are like a well-traveled woman who travels by herself and with others and everywhere she wants to go. Like, what's like your perspective and experience being like a woman traveling out and about?
What's so funny is I find Americans very, oh my God, how can you be female and travel abroad? When I found the scariest times in America. To me, they've actually voted, America is the only Western country voted the scariest for women travelers. So I'm like, I'd rather, go abroad than stay in my own country and travel alone. Right. So I think because it's an unknown to them, it's far away, it's a whole other place. And again, like I got the same kind of attitude when I lived. Everybody kept telling my mom, well, when's Stacey going to come home? When's Stacey going to get it? And I'm like, she kept going, Stacey is home. Just because it's in London doesn't make it any less real. that is her home. So, I think they have this idea abroad that it's this unknown, scary, and like, we're much more vulnerable to attack than being in our own home country. And I'm like, completely opposite, people, completely opposite. I mean, there's always going to be times when being a female and alone on a night train or something like that is going to be a little like, you're again watchful, but we're sadly from birth raised that way. I remember working at the mall, and every time I parked my cars, my keys were in my fingers ready, so we're just are always on, of making sure, but nothing's ever happened to me abroad that I felt like, oh my God, this was terrifying. I mean, almost falling off a cliff is more, that's actually happened to me. My mom almost killing herself down Cinque Terre because she did fall off a cliff and almost kill herself.
Oh my gosh.
So, those kind of things like that to me but that's just every day I could fall and trip, because I do that daily. But no, you always stay in, when you're by yourself, and you put yourself in situations that, aren't going to be like, I always loved doing youth hostels. So right away I was surrounded by people my age, or people wanting to go out to bars. So it was right away a community, and I would do bar crawls or something like that, so it was like this group feeling. So, it wasn't like every night I was going out to the bar, sitting by myself, looking like, hello, come get me. There's this weird energy when you go abroad that you bond with people like instantly because you're all kind of in the same boat. So everywhere I've gone, that I've met people that we instantly was like, and they'll be like, hey, come with us tonight. We're going here. People are much more open. And they could be American, they can be Australian, they can be, English, whatever they are. It doesn't matter. We all have this travel, like, come with us, and so I've always found much more of a community abroad than, because every day in my life in Seattle, people are nice here, but it's superficial nice. Where when I go abroad and travel, people are generally like, come with us tonight. No, we're just going to dinner, come to drinks, and so you find, groups like that. So, as a woman, you have to be always smart. There's going to always be danger. I found it scarier to travel alone here than I do abroad, anywhere. I'm talking about like, when you're going to Turkey and places like that.
Your pictures, I saw your pictures from there, a few of them that you posted, and it
was
my
God. Now all of us want to go back and discover more because, it's just, again, another place that you're like the most modern, beautiful, unbelievably gorgeous.
As you're saying all this and like how, you're more scared to travel here and the general feeling is that it is scary here in our country, I wonder if that plays into like we have this sort of false view of what traveling must be like everywhere else, that maybe because we feel like that here, we think it must be the same or worse everywhere else. And maybe that's where that general fear mentality comes in when people get afraid for traveling or for us traveling alone and you're like, no, it's actually better. It's fine everywhere else. But we don't think like that. We have what it feels like here. Plus we have the media, because I feel like the media plays into our view of like these other countries you're talking about, that like Bosnia and Turkey and Romania that you would travel to and were amazing, but that's not what our media paints for us.
Overall in the media right now, they love painting people fear. That's like, they're the ones trying to control everybody. And when people heard like, they still were like, you guys went to Bosnia? I'm like, do you guys like what you think Bosnia is? And the war that happened when George Senior Bush was in charge is so different than what it is,
Right. But it's such a warped, because, okay, like I went to the Dominican Republic a few years ago. I took my kids and we stayed at a resort, but our media, like we don't have a picture painted for that. It's just tropical, beautiful, friendly, fun, fine. Right. But then you get there and you find out that you can't leave your resort. It's walled all the way around, guarded with men with guns because it's not safe to go out by yourself. You are not allowed to leave the resort grounds by yourself. And even when we went on like a guided tour or whatever, and we were like bused to some other part of the island, we're driving through these towns. It looks really sketchy and very poor, obviously, and all of that too. But like overall sketchy, and they will tell you it's sketchy, but you don't know. We don't paint that picture for travelers ahead of time because it's the Caribbean, so it's this and that. So I do feel like there's a misinformation going on in general.
Absolutely.
For all of these places we didn't know. Yeah.
Lots of misinformation, lots of like fear tactics, especially for countries that are like across the ocean or in areas of the world where we have political issues happening with our country or with other countries. And which is so sad because because it works. Fear tactics are effective, sadly, and so what it means is there are these beautiful, incredible pockets of the world, like Turkey, that people kind of write off in their minds, like, oh, I'm just never going to explore or experience that or whatever because I'm scared. And then you are potentially missing out on an incredible life experience like Stacey's.
Well, when we went to Turkey, I think it was only a few days after they heard about that reporter being murdered. People were like, oh my God, I don't want to get murdered. That is completely separate. Like that's a political, and then places I've gone that, like you said, are political, our governments hate each other, but the people there don't hate us. And we shouldn't hate them. They're lovely. I mean, I know like Israel and all these places that people are like, oh my God. I'm like, they're gorgeous people. I mean, they're just lovely and warm and inviting and excited to meet you. And I'm like, the governments make that fear tactic of, we're at war. No, we aren't. Not with the people. Like our governments maybe because of oil or gas, but we're not, like you go there and it's so much different,
Right.
So yeah, no, I think you're right. The media makes people so much more of like, almost like stay at home, stay in your bubble, like, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Well, because that keeps us feeling separated. I think that this is why I wanted to talk about travel so badly and why it's so, like, what it means for me, and it sounds like for you guys too, is that when I go to these places and I meet these people, the locals in a foreign country, to me, you can communicate without language. And you do find out that, like Stacey was saying earlier, we're all the same. We're all the same. And that is so just connecting that then I feel a deeper connection to my fellow humans, not just my fellow Americans, but fellow humans in general. And that creates more empathy and more compassion and all the things that go against the fear-based separation that we all feel. I feel like travel, adventuring, experience, but travel is really the answer to like almost world peace, you guys.
Yeah, some people may kill me on this statement, but I fully agree because they always say, oh, reading advances the mind. Well, I've met a lot of people that they read a lot and that isn't true. I feel travel does that. Because advances who you are. Like you said, empathy makes you understand different cultures. Going to Turkey, I had to wear the scarf around my head and the way, our pants, we couldn't wear anything tight, but I loved finding those differences of like, that's their culture. I respect, more than not, you're going to find us alike, not different. There are those little things that, you have to wear the scarf because that's just the way things are there. But that's the beauty of finding it. God, if we were all the same, boring.
Being able to experience another culture and participate in another cultural experience is an honor. Like historically speaking, absolutely. But like always, anytime, no matter what, being able to step foot in a different country, a different place, surrounded by maybe different ideals or customs, like it's a privilege and it's an honor and it's something we should absolutely respect and let it grow us, which is exactly what we're talking about, because it, that expansion of our minds and of our heart and of like what we're capable of relating to, like looking in the eyes of a stranger across the ocean and seeing part of yourself reflected in that, like it's the most powerful thing. It's that people connection. It's world peace for sure.
There's so many people here that have never traveled and be like, oh, and they'll like talk bad about this culture. I'm like, if you went over there and found that their husbands and wives and their children, they take their children to school just like you do, and they pack their lunch just like you do, like we're all human people. Stop thinking it's this us versus them or they're, this other, species kind of thing. I'm like, basic line is love and family. And what I found also is the reverse of also, because yes, there's this, idea of lots of people have of, different cultures and religions. Well, they have of us. And I have met more people that are like, I'm glad I met you. I really didn't like Americans before because TV shapes their view of us. And so they see our government on TV. They see, who's in charge and they're like, oh, okay, whoa. And there's the stereotypes for a reason. Yes, I've ran into all of them. But then there's also the differences of two where we're, not all of us are the loud, obnoxious Americans that like, some of us really want to study the culture and learn it and go to those places. I've been to Dachau twice, just taking two different friends because I'm like, you need to experience this with me. I'm half German and blonde hair and blue eyed. And it was a really unbelievable experience for to sit there and go, all these people died for someone like me. And I feel like I'm a mess and there's everything I hate about myself. And I'm like, God, this is just, and then there was a guy there that he was a Polish, he had been locked up there because he was a Polish pilot that they, imprisoned. And so he was telling his stories there. And me and my friend that were both German and blonde haired and blue eyed sat down with him and talking. And we were just talking about like how we have these ideas and views of people that like, and that's what I love learning. So I actually love going over and proving, like there's more to us too than.
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about for everybody to travel, even if you're just setting foot outside your home. Anytime we have an opportunity to interact with a stranger and make an impression or maybe improve an impression that they have about any stereotype we might fall into, that is an incredible, powerful moment. Like magic can happen there. And that really is how anything big changes over time, is like one experience at a time like that. So amazing to get to do that. And you get to take, you travel, you take your friends to see places.
Oh, I do that in my own hometown. Like talk to anybody that visits me. I'm like a tour guide from hell. And they're probably like, I just want to sit and drink wine. I'm like, oh no, we're going to, you have to see, this has been the oldest building of like,
yeah, we got things to do.
When I go into a place, I dive in, I want to know it all. I want to roll in it like a pig, like, no!
And you should roll right around in it. So like, what are some of the most impressive or the most powerful like experiences or places or travel related things that you've encountered?
Oh my God, my brain is so full of like, I think anything that when you start going more Eastern bloc, because I think most people like know London or know France and like would feel safe and stuff like that. I think it's when I ventured off, into different, when we start getting off of the main comfort zone of the world and we start venturing out and meeting people there and how they want to sit and talk to us too. And they want to, communicate and bond. And there was so many places. I remember in Greece that this guy, he owned this restaurant. It was family owned, since his grandfather, and they made crush the wines themselves. And we sat and he just was so excited. So he sat down with us and that mother, like the four of us, the mother-daughter thing, we have trips that are just magical. We had one trip that like everywhere we went, there was a musical choirs on tours and they would go into cathedrals and just start singing. And so we were just like, chills. I remember being in Rome and like, yeah, we were went in the cathedrals and they just belted out. All of a sudden they were just started practicing. Every restaurant we got like free appetizers and drinks in the bar. Like people would always come down and sit with us and want to talk. I think we have, because we're so open and we love the experience of travel. We're just open to it and they feel it, and so I think, again, like, times in Bosnia or Turkey or places that, people are kind of intimidated by, and, Romania, like how, just different, the same, again, core people we are, but how beautiful the experience that I've had there with every person, everywhere I go, I feel like there's, even in London, because London's my other home. I go there so much and I live there. Even going there, even now, I feel like I have experiences there that can be just unbelievable. You just have to be open to it.
So do you have anything like right now, or do you have any like upcoming trips that you're really looking for?
Oh, geez. Again, they're all author related. And so I don't have anything planned like that, because there's places I want to go, just me. This summer I'm kind of keeping it quiet because when they hit, it's like,
I know.
I have a quick one up to Vancouver, and then I have London, and then I have Australia, and then I have Edinburgh. But those are all going to be also jumping off points to go probably somewhere else.
Right.
My next book I'm writing about, and it's going to be set in Budapest. And I love Budapest, God.
Yes.
And so I kind of want to like filter back in that area to get that inspiration again. Cause at the time I was so excited, but I'm like, okay, but I have to wait. I have these other books to write first. And now I'm like, okay, I'm ready to write it. Now I need to feel it again. So, and again, my number one right now is getting on like, I want to do a safari. I have so many friends, and living in the Caribbean and working, it's totally different than visiting people, believe me. It's so funny when I mention all the places I've lived, people are like, "Ooh, the Caribbean." I'm like, yeah, visiting for 2 weeks is different than living there. Like it was kind of hell for me, but I love it, the experience. Working and living on boats, but I had there's a lot of South African, because that's how they can legally leave their, because the water's international. So there's a lot of and so I have so many friends from South Africa that I'm like, they're like, come to Cape Town, like we'll go on, and people from London I met from, so going on a safari is one of my big, like, I want to do this soon.
Yeah. Oh man.
And not only I think that traveling opens you up to people, but I think it also opens you up to like wanting to save the environment and animals and seeing like this gorgeous species that are dying because it's okay to hunt them for the ivory still. And like I get so passionate about like, and then you see my friends that lived in Africa and the children are dying because they can't get any clean water. And I mean, people are like, we have our own problems here. I'm like, we have enough to share, people. We can do it. Like we're not even handling our own problems here. We're ignoring them. But it's just, there's so much in this world, I think, that opens your eyes and makes you see like, because it's not just people, it's the environment, it's animals, it's, we all work together in this world for a reason.
Yes.
Yeah. We're all connected. Well, and so really what we're saying here is that travel is good for you.
Yes. And that can be, and I understand so mmany people are going, well, good for you. You can afford that. Well, but I sometimes like will just get in my car and do a little road trip, like and go down the beach, or, do Highway 1 down the Pacific Northwest a little bit or go out hiking or something. So sometimes it can be a little thing,
Absolutely.
The small steps lead to big ones.
Yes. I was going to say we should talk about what you can do close to home because we've talked about like traveling abroad or traveling far from home, but we should talk about how we sort of adventure without really having to get a hotel. And it's like my husband rides a motorcycle, so we'll go for motorcycle rides and we have our favorite roads around here that are just good roads for taking a drive or a ride. So we don't even necessarily go to a different place every time. We try to if we can, if we have enough time. But even if it's just the same road, it's just an adventure. It's a quick adventure and you're only gone an hour or two or whatever you have time for, but it really clears my head.
Places that like, some little like lunch place that's kind of off the beaten track. That's what I am really an off track kind of person. Like I am not going to go to KFC or like, that kind of stuff. I will always try to find the local hangout.
The mom and pop places.
Yeah. And even if it's like that, you're on just a drive in your own, try a local like mom and pop shop off your own beaten road that you've never, and talking to people there because, I said that America probably is the scariest for women to travel in, but also there's beauty in this country too. And you will find traveling how kind we all are too. And again, the media paints this picture, and right now there is an ugliness, but I think again, travel opens up you and the person, because I've met people here that are traveling through and there is such an energy they hold and you do want it. It's almost like you want to be a part of that. Like, that feels good. You're happy and you want to experience. And I love meeting, like I'll go down to Pike's Place just to be doing, I'll meet all these like, people that are coming from different countries and it sends that little like, yee again through me that I'm like,
It's just like an excitement. It's like an ignition almost of like, oh, there's so much more to life. Cause when we get into our daily grind, it's really easy for us to forget how big the world is and how much we have not seen or done or how much we do not know. But when we have little glimpses like that, or when we take a couple steps outside of our typical zones, we're sort of reminded that the world is this big, almost unexplored place in like a metaphorical sense, a playground for us in a sense. And, and it's just out there waiting for us. And like we're saying, it doesn't have to be, super far away or super, super expensive. It could be right, a local mom and pop shop, or it could be back roads on a motorcycle. Or for me and my husband, we love to hike. And so we are constantly looking for new trails that are nearby, and that hiking and being in the mountains and being in nature, it helps me fall in love with the place I live because I'm hiking in my own like hometown in these trails, but like I'm falling in love with places that have been in my backyard for the last 10 years that I just didn't even really ever know about or explore. So yeah, I think it does. It's like it ignites this spark of like, oh wow, I'm part of something incredible and I want to see more. It's just beautiful. And like what you're saying, Stacey, like giving people a chance, stepping outside your comfort zone or taking a little road trip and allowing yourself to interact with people openly and like giving them a chance to show you the beauty of who they are or where you're at or whatever. And like just taking that and then moving on down the road. Like it's just the concept in general is just beautiful, what travel is.
Well, and it's inspiring. And we haven't talked too much about, we're all writers and so we're all creatives, but for anybody listening who is or has a creative passion or maybe is still looking for one, I think it's worth saying, like, one of the other reasons why we value adventure and travel and seeing new things and meeting new people is because it's inspiring. I mean, it's inspiring to us as people, which is what we've been saying this whole time, which is why it's worth it by itself for sure. But specifically to our work, I mean, it's really inspiring. I know for all three of us, I'm sure. Stacey, you were saying the next book you're writing is set in Budapest, where you've been and where you want to go back to. In general, maybe talk about like how does that inspire you to see new things? Does that help if you're stuck on your writing? Does that just help your creativity in general?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I think traveling in some way, and like Chelsea said, even taking a hike. Sometimes if I have writer's block or something, I always know it's because I'm forcing something that's not working, and my brain is just too closed down to let it develop. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I need to go for a hike. I need to get out. And, but big, like my travel trips, oh my God, like I feel so alive and so light. And I think that lets creativity just flow through you. Cause there's some days that I'm like, we're traveling through, but I'm like, dude, I also want to write. I mean, I'm like, where's my key? Like, where's my computer? Yes. I want to sit down and I'm like, I want to capture this, and I have brought in my travels through my writing. There was that place in Greece that, I wrote about my Darkness series about there in this dragon cave in Upper Greece and stuff like that. And I hadn't been there yet. And I wrote it, cause I just, I went through and I investigated and found this thing and found pictures and found descriptions and stuff like that. And then when we were up there, I was like, my friend and we're such Goonies kids. I mean, we're both in our 40s and we act like we're 12. I mean, we're like, woo! And that's another thing. It just makes you a kid again, which of course that's where, inspiration and all that stuff just bubbles, it just can't wait to get out. And we found this cave. I mean, it took us a while, but we found it and it was the most eerie thing because everything, I mean, she even brought out the book and started reading and both of us were like chills because I had described it so perfectly and I had never been there.
Wow.
And it was one of those,
that is amazing.
I mean, like I had it down to a T where there was like a slant in the cave and I'm like, oh my God, it was like I'd been here, but I hadn't been here, I think I told you guys earlier, one of my favorite things ever is I used to do London to Edinburgh. And that on a train and talk about like, yes, it's the total Harry Potter feeling, and I would get out, and this is the time before, computers, I would get out my journal and I would just write, and at that time I wasn't even a writer, I was just, there was just so much when you're sitting on that train and you're watching that countryside go by and it's almost like, this magical thing. So, and it just opens you up to wanting to like express these colors and, see the landscape and stuff. Yes. So, I think travel is one of my biggest influences in my writing, even if it's not directly put in there.
Yeah.
I think that inspiration, that like kind of feeling.
Yeah. That feeling, capturing that. Cause I actually did that. My very first motorcycle ride I ever took was like that. It was like magic. And I was experiencing all these feelings or sensations or like, just all, there was just so much going on. And it was just really amazing for me. And I came home and I journaled about it. And actually the portions of that journal entry were lifted and I put into the next book I wrote. She fell in love with a guy on a motorcycle. Hello. And I put word for word almost portions of that original journal entry when she's riding a motorcycle for the first time and how it feels is exactly how it felt. And it's like doing that is the only way I would have known to write it. So you can write about places you've never been, but it's that feeling that you're talking about that you can capture of a place or a character or something that you can't get unless you're having those feelings too. So any kind of like adventure or discovery that you can do, this new experience sensation can help inspire you, but also make you a better writer or artist or whatever it is you're doing, I think, because then you can capture it. You can describe it so much better. I just think it's so important. And it's same for me as it is for you. It's like, it's so influential now. I can't really feel creative without regular doses of it anymore,
No,
and we were even saying before we hit record on this, we were saying like when we're down, when I'm in a kind of a funk or a bad mood or a rut or whatever, and I'm like, I'm just not excited about anything right now, which is silly because there's lots of things in my life to be excited about. But when you're just in one of those moods, even if I can't take a trip or go somewhere new today, but if I can plan a trip or like better yet, if I can book a plane ticket somewhere, it doesn't even matter where it is. Like it just doesn't, but I'm instantly in a better mood because I'm like, okay, I have this thing I'm planning and it's going to be new and, I don't know what's going to happen. And I just love that feeling.
it allows you to dream, something to look forward to, something you don't have entire control over. It's exhilarating.
Which is funny because I'm a control person.
I know.
Chelsea, what about you guys?
I am not a control person.
I'm not either. God, I'm so like, whatever. But in my writing, like I realized that my book world, I am not. I am kind of like, I want my covers a certain way and I want this a certain way, but everything else, I'm like, whatever. Yeah. If it happens, it happens,
Well, yeah.
And I love have that because that's where I feel like most things happen to you is when you're open to it,
So true. Well, okay. So as we are starting to wrap up, I just want to really quick, because we did promise that we were going to have some tips for especially our listeners who maybe are hopefully listening to this, realizing that this is something that is missing and they want more of. So they want more new experiences and best of all, travel. And if it's holding you back that you're like, well, I don't have anybody to go with or anything, I really hope that this episode and Stacey's story has been inspirational to you because you don't have to wait for that. You just can do it and you can go and you can do it by yourself. But from the three of us who've done that before, we just want to try to give you some tips about maybe what works for us when we're traveling by ourselves. This is where we maybe wouldn't feel comfortable or when we're outside our comfort zone. So maybe we can share with them some of that. So Chelsea, you want to go first? Is there anything that you can think of off the top of your head?
Yes, I have a girl tip for traveling alone as a female, which I love to do. And I do it all the time. But something that I have found that makes me feel more comfortable when I'm staying in a hotel by myself, because I don't know about you guys, but the hotel aspect of where I stay can sometimes be the most vulnerable or frightening area because it's where I sleep. So it's where I am at my most vulnerable. And it's also where I'm coming and going. So I'm being seen a lot going in and out of those doors. So I'm hyper aware that I'm a woman by herself sleeping in a hotel room alone when I'm traveling, especially in this country. So it was funny that you brought that up, Stacey, because that in America, I'm especially like this. So what I do is I try to always request that my hotel room be located near the elevators. And I do that because right by the elevators, although it is a little bit noisier, there's just constant foot traffic, which means my room is not going to be down at the very end of a dark hallway around a corner where I could scream and no one would hear me. That's a really dramatic example, but
it's good because this might be putting towards what we women are thinking in their heads.
So I like to request a hotel room that is near the elevators. It doesn't have to be right there, but close enough. I always make eye contact and try to remember the names of the people of the staff, like the front desk clerk or anybody that is bringing me anything to my room or room service. I always try to look at their name tags and use their names because I find that it allows them or maybe gives them permission to remember me or to just be more aware of me. It just makes me feel safer. And then the only other thing there is that I do prefer to stay in hotels where all of the hotel room doors are facing the center of a hotel, kind of like the lobbies in the middle or an atrium or something. I know Hyatt Regencies, they tend to always have their rooms set up like that. And I just like that because, again, there's just a lot of visibility. I'm not really a big fan of really shallow, short, narrow corridors in hotels, especially because of the work that we do when we're at events or we're doing book signings or whatever. Those are late night events and then we go out afterwards. And so sometimes I'm not rolling back into my hotel room at until 2 or 3 in the morning. And the last thing I want to do is walk down like a creepy, isolated hotel hallway, to the dark, eerie corners of where I'm going to then go to sleep and completely lose consciousness. So those are just my personal girl safety tips when I'm traveling on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say the same as you about the front desk people. That was my main one too. I think for me, it's also the hotel or where I'm staying. It sets the tone for how I'm going to feel. Because once I'm out in town and whatever, that never,
right.
I don't really ever worry or feel nervous or, obviously I'm not going to put myself a situation. I'm so careful, but just the same as I would be at home, no dark alleys by myself, that kind of thing, but the hotel. And so I will also just be really friendly with the front desk people and just kind of have a good rapport with them so that I feel like I know them and they know me a little bit more now, which just, I don't know, it makes me feel more comfortable about where I'm sleeping. Yeah. So that would be my big one too. And then also just depending on where you're going and what you're doing, if it's, I guess, appropriate that you would need a car to get around, to consider maybe getting a rental car, and then you don't have to worry about getting into taxis or Ubers. The only time that ever really bothers me is after dark, especially if you're in a foreign city that you don't know. And again, this goes for America. Yes. Like I don't know anywhere else. I've been to Thailand and I wasn't worried. I went down Walking Street, which is where like all the it's literally like, it's a whole street. They close it off. You walk down and there's people handing out flyers for like sex shows, like come in. It's, and I felt so comfortable. Everyone was so friendly, you know, and there was enough like willing sex that nobody was going to try to like force you. Like you just weren't worried.
You guys, in Amsterdam, I was offered a job, a live show. I could have been an actress on stage with animals. God. No, it's so funny. The book.
And you probably felt safe saying no or saying whatever.
It was in the red light district. I just laughed. I was like, all right, cool. I'm like, Mom, I got a job. I'm an actress.
Oh my God.
But see, it's funny because both of the things you guys have mentioned, I do none of those because unless I'm an American at a book signing, I don't do hotels. I love more B&Bs. I love more the Zimmers. Yeah. I love, I actually like the apartment, like in London, I'll rent my own apartment for a week because I hate the cold. I hate going to a Hilton where you feel like you can be in a Hilton in any part of the world. To me, half the experience is being I find that's another thing. I kind of choreograph like all of our mother-daughter trips and I'll pick all the hotels and I always go for one of my friends came to America and we were sleeping in a teepee. You know, there was a teepee at this place. I mean, I'm always trying to do very unique, different things because I think your hotel can also be half of the experience of being something different or unique. Sure. And those places are always a lot more one-on-one. You're not treated as another Hilton customer that they have thousands of in that building. You know, you are there, like they have like 6 rooms, so they know you. And so, so I don't actually like big hotels, but in America, you know, we have to stay at them. But my only advice would be just, as a woman, really no different than any other trip in the world, is just plan enough that you know what you want to do and see, and make sure you have, you know, really investigate the city, and to know, like, you know, I want to see these things, but leave yourself an open room that you can, you know, because there's times when you found like, oh, I went through that faster. Okay, I can do something else. Or holy crap, that took the whole day. Now, you know, you have to be flexible in your plans, but I don't have a particular thing for women. I mean, I think just as women across the world, you just always have to watch your back. I mean, that's just how it is. And don't put yourself in stupid situations, you know, and like in America, you watch your drinks, make sure not, you know, but to be open to this life, because, you know, the more things that I think that have blessed, you know, like have just come to me that I have these memories of, is something that I didn't plan, but it was probably, and today's a little different. I feel when I was younger, you could go abroad and not have a hotel room booked and it was okay. Now I feel because traveling is a lot more touchable and tangible now to people. It's, you know, I make sure that, you know, the room's booked. I have a sort of a plan. So those are, I mean, my tip is for basically human, you know, for anybody, you know, just
anybody,
you know, research and know what areas that like you're staying in. If it's make sure you're, I always love staying in the like old town parts of things, or, you know, wherever the sites are the most, or, you know, so the most traffic areas.
More history or just more accessible to your sightseeing destinations. That's always smart.
I'm totally big on, especially in London, black cabs, Uber. I'm not.
Well, and as I was talking, I was like, you know, this probably is just for America. It's so crazy that it is different here.
It is.
Even for us as women who get nervous, it's so much different here because all that stuff I said is for in America.
Yeah.
I realize.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a totally different ballgame. And maybe that's like what this all comes down to. That's what we want women especially to realize is, you know, if it does make you nervous, the thought of traveling, that just means you need to go far. You need to go far. You need to go get out of the country and it'll feel way better.
Yes. Good. You know, if you're, and start with, if something really does make you nervous and you're by yourself, go to some place where like Florence or, you know, or somewhere in Switzerland or something that, you know, yes, they speak English and you feel comfortable. And those, I mean, Florence is probably one of the most safe. I mean, they have American schools all over and there's, I mean, it is so beautiful and it's so lovely, but just take those steps. And then from there, I have like 3 friends that like, were like, I was planning on traveling and then they meet me. And then now like my friends just text me going, what's your next trip? I'll meet you there. I mean, I turn people into like fiends because they get this taste with me. And I don't know if I have that when I'm abroad. I just get that like, excitement and so, I mean, start small. If that's like something like Florence or Paris, I mean, Paris can be overwhelming just because it's so big, but and start those kind of trips where, yes, they speak English and you feel like safe in them in that sense. And then from there, you probably want to step a little bit further and then a little bit further. And then like me, you'll probably be soon in, some place you have to swim to because,
That sounds amazing.
I know.
Next trip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such great advice. Okay, so tell everybody, we want everybody to know you are an author. You're an amazing author. I love your books. The most recent one that I read was Shattered Love, and it was, it shattered me, and then it put me back together, thankfully, and it was amazing. So for anybody who has not checked out your books or needs to know what to read next, what can they look for next from you, and where can they find you?
Well, the Blinded Love series is done. So there's Shattered Love, A Broken Love, and then Stevie's Twisted Love. So that's done. And there's a room people are wanting me to go on, but right now that story hasn't come to me. I'm a very emotional writer. If I don't feel the story, I'm like, eh. I have all my paranormal romance, which has 3 series connected. It's the Darkness series, Collector series, and then the Lightness saga. And those 3 all end up connecting. So you kind of have to start with the first one, Darkness of Light, and then go down that list. And then my Buried Alive, which is my first contemporary romance, and I think it's an incredible story. Then on April Fool's Day, my book, The Unlucky Ones, comes out. Yeah, it comes out. And it's probably, I know it's my assistant. She's read it 4 times already. It's her favorite. And it was so funny. It came from a scene of a guy getting arrested after a girl and him having sex. The story came from it. It's the most heartbreaking story, but it's beautiful. But you're like, how did it come in? It's so funny how stories can like come from a single little nugget,
Yes.
Right?
So yeah, I have my paranormal romance, and I know like I go against where stay in your lane. Some people should just do contemporary. Some people should just
No, I think you just proved them wrong.
Do it all.
And it's funny, the more people I meet that are also traveling, we're like, no, you can't tell us to stay in LA. We're going to go everywhere.
That's right.
Right.
And I think they're somewhat connected because we're like, no, I want to feel it all. I want to experience it all. So yeah, I'm going to have my 5 in the contemporary romance, and then I have the 13 plus a novelette in my paranormal. So you guys can start wherever you prefer.
Wherever you feel. Yeah, we'll link to your website and your wherever they can find your books in the show notes. So I'll get that info from you, Stacey. So.
They're everywhere now. Amazon, iBooks, whatever. Yeah.
Cool. And if you guys want pictures of all of Stacey's travels, I know she posts them on Facebook because that's where I watch her. And are you also on Instagram?
I am. I love Instagram.
Me too. Okay, we'll make sure we link all those places because the pictures you post of your trips are also really awesome. So we'll get that posted. And then one last thing that we want to leave honeys with today. I know we talked about a lot. We gave them some tips. We talked about some of our favorite trips and what we love about traveling. So maybe just like one last thought that you want to either remind them of that we talked about or...
Well, it's funny because I'm also on Pinterest and I have my own travel, like all my favorite places and stuff like that. And I was actually scrolling through one because right now, and I think a lot of people, I know authors, I know people in general, it's feeling like a very dark, heavy time right now. And I found this quote that says, sometimes you just need an adventure to cleanse the bitter taste of life from your soul.
Oh, so true.
Yeah, it kind of fits right now because I think that's perfectly how travel does for me. Like all the anger and heaviness I feel, it just disappears when I'm traveling.
Yes. So perfect. I love it. All right, Chelsea, what about you?
I don't know how to top that. That's gorgeous.
I agree. I think that Stacey kind of just said it all. And we just want to remind everybody who, I'm sure there's plenty of you that do travel and do have adventures, and that's amazing. And what we want is just for our listeners who feel like maybe stuck where they are or afraid to get out of their comfort zone, every cool, amazing, memorable thing that has happened. And I know I can probably speak for Chelsea and Stacey as well when I say in my personal life, in my travel, in my career, and like all of it has happened when I got out of my comfort zone.
Very true. Yes.
So it can't happen until you take that step out of your comfort zone. So that's really what we want you to know.
And the funniest stories. I'm surprised you guys didn't ask me any of those kind of like...
Well, we should have.
Like falling off the bar when I was drunk or... no. I fell off the bar when I was sober. I never fell off the bar drunk.
What?
Oh my God. Oh my gosh, we need next time on the Raw Honey.
It was part of my job in London Teasers. All of us at a certain song, a certain time of night, we all get up and on the bar and dance. And you could take off your top or not. And we always had fun bras, and to me, that was actually a very freeing, because it was like nobody could touch us,
Yeah.
And you didn't have to, and if you wanted to, but and we just had a blast. But yeah, no, at that same place, the only time I ever fell off the bar is because I was damn sober. My dad was like, "Stacey, did I not teach you anything?"
I love that.
That's the family I come from. My dad's like, and why did you fall off the bar? I'm like, because I was a sober dad. I'm sorry.
And he's like, I'm disappointed in you.
Your own fault.
He's like, that's my girl. All right.
Right. Oh, that's amazing.
So yes, let's end it on that note.
Let's end it on that note, guys. Just be careful dancing on bars. Maybe only do it after you drink, so you have a better excuse to recall. I don't know. That's our best advice.
These are the life lessons.
That's my advice going out.
That's right. Okay, well, thank you so much for listening, honeys. Don't forget to leave a review or subscribe, or better yet, share this episode with another honey who needs it, and we will see you next time. See you later.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Raw Honeys podcast. If so, please share it with a friend or post a review. Heather, Chelsea, and I would love to connect with you. Check us out on Instagram at The Raw Honeys, or join our community of honeys on Facebook. Thanks for listening. We wish you nothing but big love.